What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a Sunday morning or very early afternoon if you're out on the East Coast like me. I am Britt Devine, joined by Mr. STL Cars, Justin Van Zuden, here with TJ as well. Congrats, TJ, on hitting one of the Spidey bombs yesterday. We were just talking pre-show. If only we always bet all the people we thought were going to hit home runs in combinations and parlays, we'd all be millionaires. It seemed pretty simple looking back on yesterday. We have got to get that like button for some Spidey bombs today. How many you got today for us?
We'll see. You know, it's early Sunday morning here right now, so we don't got too many people watching yet. I think we'll say I could probably dish out the first one at like 30 likes, and then we can see where we go from there.
All right, we're already at 20, and I contributed, so we're already almost there. We'll get a couple Spidey bombs. Cards, I've been doing basketball with you. Welcome to the baseball season. Your Cardinals. Jack Flaherty, no hitter. Congratulations to him, at least during his time in the game yesterday. But 7 walks, killed the Blue Jays. TJ, I know we were a little disappointed in that. But Cards, that was a pretty. That was one of the strangest lines I think I've seen in baseball.
Yeah, it was a weird game, and it was a big. I hate to say it, second game of the season, but it was a nice bounce back for the Cardinals after blowing the first game in the 9th inning on a game that was 10-9. So. That was a wild game, that opener, and I think, frankly, the Cardinals are going to be in for a lot of overs this year because their lineup is very good. It's very deep, but their pitching has question marks throughout. So I think you're going to see, a trend of higher total games for the Cardinals this year. We'll see how that comes going forward, and it makes the slate like today's interesting because, you've got, say, 2 of the more talented middle of the rotation starters with Bassett and Montgomery going today, but facing off against 2 pretty good offenses. So that's only part of what makes this baseball slate a little bit challenging. Still trying to do the double dip with NBA as well. I got to finish up the NBA article and the NBA content after this. So busy Sunday.
Yeah, I'll join you with some of that NBA stuff a little later today. TJ, dude, the likes worked. We're at 37. Let me open up my Fanduel app here. They are the sponsor of our show. Thank you to Fanduel for that. What's our first home run call? We'll get that out of the way before we start talking the slate and weather.
First Spidey bomb of the day. Oh, hold on here. Just give me a second. It's early in the morning.
It's open. I'm ready to find the best line.
Oh, there we go. All right. Kyle Tucker is the first Spidey bomb of the day. I love this spot for him. In Houston, going up against Mike Clevenger, who is giving up all kinds of hard contact to lefties since he got hurt about a year and a half ago. So I'm all over the Astros today, and Spidey loves himself some Kyle Tucker, and so Kyle's hitting himself a homer today.
We got a 350 line out there for Kyle Tucker on FanDuel. It's a 330. TJ, after yesterday's performance, I know I'm following you in on this. Let's go some Kyle Tucker for a home run. Cards, you on board with that? I have no problem.
Yeah, no, I've got no issues with Tucker today. I think great spot for those Houston bats, and definitely on board with that one.
All right, we got that locked in.
Watching TJ take off the Spider-Man mask is literally my favorite part of the show now. Just the struggle is real.
It is very.
You should have gotten the large size.
So easy. Like on and off so easy when I don't have the headphones in. Then as soon as I have the headphones in, they just get caught, and then it hurts so bad.
You got to get the large, not the children's mask at the Halloween shop next time for that. Well, you probably have so much.
At the Halloween shop.
Those, right?
This isn't some little plastic mask.
Yeah, that's a real one. Yeah,
this is a very expensive helmet here.
Yeah, I mistook. I was speaking about the wrong person on that one for sure in terms of their Spider-Man stuff. But all right, let's get into the slate. Cards, always like to start when I do the shows on weather. They're just like yesterday. There is some wind out there. Weather Edge has some, discrepancies from what you might expect. I think it might have to do to some small sample sizes. But Roth has weather that's going to benefit us in Kansas City, upper 60s. So that's warm today with a 20-mile-per-hour wind blowing out. I want to show what Weather Edge shows for that. Now, it's normally hard to hit home runs in Kansas City, but we got 11 games. A 67% increase in home runs in Kansas City, 36% total in runs. I posted this early this morning on Scores and Odds and as an 8 over. That was at minus 115. Now it's at 9, and I think it's like minus 120 or something like that. Is this a spot we're targeting? I have a bunch of home run. I literally picked probably like 10 players from this game to hit a home run. strictly off of this, I didn't, risk the bankroll or anything on it, but I'm looking for lots of home runs in this Kansas City game, cards.
Well, I mean, it's easy to see a 36% bump in runs because so far through 2 games, the Royals haven't scored any. So they're going to have to, they're going to have an increase from 0 at some point. Their lineup does not inspire a ton of confidence. I do like the Minnesota side a little bit more in this game, but environment certainly good for offense. It would be nice if, Kansas City could show some life, but eventually they're going to score. So maybe that's today. And for what it's worth, I do agree. I like the over in that game as well.
I think I was looking at it. There's not a lot of times teams get shut out both games, but they actually do score runs in the third game, cards, to open the season.
Okay. They're not going to get shut out 3 games in a row.
We'll have to see how that goes. A couple other weather spots. We've got weather in Chicago. And TG, I'll go to you in this one. The weather edge, is it lying? Or is it the wind or the temperatures today? Because this is a 6-game sample, which is pretty small for baseball. It has a 50% reduction in home runs in this particular instance, probably because of the cold. We've got the wind. We know Wrigley wind, it can lie to us. How are you playing this game?
Yeah, I don't think we have to look into weather edge at all. It's 6 games. Who knows who the lineups were? Who knows who the pitchers were? If they could have been fantastic pitchers that game. And so with a sample size like 6 games, I don't think we have to read into that whatsoever. The wind looks pretty decent. It's early in the season. It's pretty much cold everywhere. I'm looking more into the matchups than I am the weather. Obviously that I'm giving a bump to Minnesota and KC because it's hotter than everywhere else, but I gave a bump to Texas yesterday when I found out that they were opening the roof. That went pretty well. And so if it's hot, I care a lot more about that than wind at this point, just because it's pretty cold everywhere. But I'm looking more for pitching matchups than I am for the weather at this point.
All right, a couple other spots in Washington. Yesterday, we had the wind out. That helped Acuna, Olsen go yard, basically to start the game. Now it's blowing in a little bit. So that can have there's a pretty reasonable scoring decrease. If you look at weather edge in the Nationals games, that's on 28 games. So the sample's getting a little better when the wind's blowing in there, along with the temperatures. Don't expect the offensive bonanza maybe from the Braves today. This was basically the exact opposite yesterday with a plus 50% increase in home runs with the wind blowing in. It is a little bit of a decrease. A couple other spots, St. Louis, a little bit out to left. New York, wind's blowing out to right. So there's a lot of good favorable spots. Cards, if you had to pick your favorite weather spot of the day, is it that Cubs game? We know Wrigley wind usually works for us. Is that the spot we want to target, at least for the weather today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like Kansas City a little bit more with the weather just because it's warmer. I mean, it is chilly here in the Midwest, so, that might negate that Wrigley impact. Plus, we haven't seen the true, huge, massive Wrigley wind bonanzas since they redesigned the stadium a few years back. I've gotten burned by that my fair share of times because I used to play that pretty much every time it was a thing. But I think I like Kansas City a little bit better today, and then Chicago, and then probably St. Louis after that.
All right, let's turn to pitching after going over weather. It's starting to die down. We get into the team's third starters cards, and it starts to look very bleak across the landscape. And the pricing is pretty strange, specifically on DraftKings. I mean, you can play, 2 very good pitchers for under $15,000 today, which normally doesn't happen over there. What's your overall take on the pitching slate, at least from the cash game perspective? You can mix in some tournaments, and we'll get to TJ for his thoughts afterwards.
Yeah, I think from cash games, it's pretty straightforward. I think Springs is the best pitcher on the slate because A, he's facing Detroit, B, solid numbers, and C, the price isn't outrageous, especially on DraftKings where, you almost have to play him there. But even if you look at our ownership on Fanduel, we've got him owned about 35%, which is pretty big for a one-pitcher site. And then Garcia after that. I mean, these are the 2 guys with and Joe Ryan is the 3rd guy with a 5.5 strikeout prop today. Garcia's 4.5 in some places, 5.5 in some places. But, with it not being a big ace day until these games get spread out with off days and injuries and things like that, everyone's going to be on the back end of their rotations for the next couple of days. So it is going to be ugly. I think Springs and Garcia are the top two. Ryan, I'm probably out on today because he's more expensive than those two on FanDuel, and the weather there, and Kansas City's got to score sometimes. So Springs and Garcia, I think, are the cash game choices today. Now for tournaments, you can absolutely make a case that just because it's early season, you're seeing most pitchers go maybe 85 pitches in their first start, and especially Tampa, who's always careful with their pitchers. I'm not going to fault anybody for saying, I'm not going to play Springs in a GPP at 35% ownership. I get it. So maybe you go to other talented guys that have more difficult matchups like Bassett, or you go with one of the rookies, Schuster making his first start for Atlanta, their best pitching prospect, and he's facing Washington. So certainly that helps. And these guys are owned at, about a third of the level. You got Senga against the Marlins, a guy coming over from Japan that had big numbers over there. Marlins aren't very good. They have one of the lower team totals on the board, and he's, 1 or 2% owned. I think it's silly to just say, well, I'm going to play Springs and Garcia and GPPs and then take the 50% ownership. At this point in the year, I think, yeah, you play Springs, you play Garcia in your cash games, but in tournaments, guys like Schuster, Bassett, and particularly Senga, I think are interesting for me today.
I know even from cash on DraftKings, you can play Garcia and Springs pretty easily. But if you want to play Springs with like Schuster, I mean, you get the pick of basically every bat that you want, which would probably help out a little bit more if there was a Coors game or it was warm weather everywhere. But you can make that work on DraftKings as well. So I agree, Springs, Garcia, and then if you wanted to play maybe a Schuster on DraftKings and cash, I think is a certainly reasonable take to have today. From a tournament perspective, TJ, we like strikeouts. You got anyone you think can mow down a team today?
I got a pretty tight pool today at pitching. Like, I'm going to have Jeffrey Springs in the vast majority of my lineups today. I think the one that's definitely the most interesting on the slate is Senga, just because, I mean, cards like some cheese like them in his article. I think around the industry, he's popping some places, and
the bat is very just anti. The bat is very anti him today, but I think it's. I would be a little higher than the bat is today, personally.
Yeah, so I bumped it up a little bit as well, but I definitely think he's the most interesting one. Springs is my highest owned by far, and then Garcia and Schuster are both coming in like that 30-ish% range for me. I'll get a little bit of Brito in tournaments, a little bit of Ashcraft and Joe Ryan in tournaments, and then Bassett and Senga as well. But it's a pretty tight pool for me today.
Yeah, I like Ashcraft. I took his over 4.5 strikeouts. It was close to even money on FanDuel when I put it on scores and odds. I think it's up to like minus 130 now. Anyone throwing hard, changed his grip, good spring training cards. That's a guy, right? To me, we're throwing it against the wall here on the first couple of weeks of baseball. He's someone I think is going really under-owned that could possibly have a good game today.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, the sample size thing, you get some people that are going to argue each side of the ledger there. I mean, it helps that it's the Pirates for sure. So I don't think I'm as sold, at least until we start to see that strikeout bump, last through the regular season a little bit. But, maybe I'm missing the boat on that. So certainly if you've got some conviction on a guy that's going to go under the radar, you can absolutely make some hay on that the early part of the season. So I definitely don't hate it in GPPs.
Another guy on the slate was Ryan. He changed a couple of his pitches up, et cetera, et cetera. He's having himself, I think he's someone too, if you wanted to take a stand on based on some of the spring training and different pitches, things like that will stand out ownership wise. Ashcraft 5% on, this is DraftKings, 2 pitchers. Joe Ryan under 10%. So I don't mind taking some stands on those, specifically on this slate, pairing one of them with Springs, or if you don't use Springs, you're going to be really different today. Wouldn't mind having a shot on either one of them. Anyone else? Any other pitchers anyone wants to talk about?
Not here.
Nope.
All right.
That's about it. I will say, I have Springs in almost all of my lineups, but I do have one lineup that I really love. It's Luis Garcia and Ashcraft team with a Houston and a Baltimore stack. I think it's pretty juicy.
Yeah, I like that. All right, TJ, we're at 62 likes. You gave out the first Spidey bomb. It was Kyle Tucker for some of those guys that missed it earlier. You want to get on these either in DFS or at your sportsbook. How about we set it at 80 to get Spidey Bomb number 2? Does that sound good?
Nah, we got 250 people watching. It won't even be half to get to up to 100. So we're going to need 100 likes for Spidey Bomb number 2 today.
All right. I'm trying to negotiate. This man, you do not want to buy a car from TJ. He is a tough negotiator. He will take you to the cleaners, both used and new. The prices are so high. All right, let's go. Let's go to some of the bats out here, stack wise, cards.
We need to raise our standards a little bit, because the absolute bare minimum should be half the people hitting the like button. Like, it's so easy. All you got to do is you take your mouse, you slide it over, you click. If you're watching on your phone, you click hide chat, and then you click the like button. It's the easiest thing.
I want to bet these. I need to know them. So I'm setting the low bar.
Well, blame the people. You know what I mean? It's not my fault. It should be a bare minimum of half hitting the like button. So getting us at 100, that's not even half. That's easy. That's low stakes. That's easy money.
It's going up. We're almost at 80. Keep going, guys. Cards, offensive landscape. There's some wind. Are we playing wind, or are we playing good hitters in other spots today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not letting the weather be the sole guide here. In Kansas City, I do like it, but I'm not rushing out to stack the Royals. Again, they haven't scored yet. I think the Twins are probably up there against Keller, as you could argue, as a top stack. Certainly Buxton will be chalky. The rest of the lineup, though, you're basically looking at, 15% ownership or less on everybody else. Correa, Kepler. We know that if Gallo gets a hold of one, the wind blowing out could help him. Larnack is 2,200 on FanDuel hitting cleanup. So these are guys that I like. Not that you need all the punts in the world today, because you don't have to spend top dollar on pitching, but I do like the Twins. I do like Boston. I think, there's going to be a lot of high scoring Boston games this year, as well, as we've seen their first couple of games. And I think as far as, a more risk reward stack, I don't think as many people are going to be on Houston now, because Alvarez isn't playing today. It just, maybe diminishes the appeal of their stack a little bit. But if the ownership comes down on that, I think Minnesota, Boston, Houston are probably my top 3. And then, maybe somebody like the Reds as a sneakier group against Velasquez today.
TJ, what are you on? You got anything other than those guys? I know I was looking at the Baltimore stack in Boston today. I mean, Mullins is a Rushman, Santander, Mountcastle, Henderson. The top of that lineup looks pretty good to me.
TJ, what are you on is a dangerous question to be asking during a live show. In terms of this baseball slate, yeah, I like a lot of the same teams that Cards was saying. I do like the Braves today. I don't think they're going to be that egregiously owned. I like Tampa Bay. I like Boston. Throw in Baltimore and the Reds and Houston. Those are my main 6 stacks that I'm focusing on today. But like even Milwaukee, Chicago, like Minnesota, the Yankees. There's so many offenses I like today. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying to keep such a tight pitching pool. Is I'm playing 20 lineups, and I want to get a bunch of different variations of stacks. And so that's why I'm going nearly 100% Jeffrey Springs, so that I can play 10 different stacks with him.
All right. I do like one bet I have. We hit 86 likes, so I'll give a couple of bets that I like. We'll get the Spidey Bomb in a second. So a couple things I made on scores and odds. I like the Rays with the Padres later as a money line parlay. You should get that right or a little over plus money. The no-run first inning, I'm a sucker for those. I like that in the Tampa Bay game here. Springs, very good first-inning pitcher. Wentz, also in a limited sample, was very good as a first-inning pitcher. So I think Springs for sure will take care of his. Yandy Diaz, Paredes, Franco. Sure, there's a couple of hitters, but if Wentz can get through that first inning, I like the no-run first inning there. Keep going with the likes. We'll get Spidey Bomb number 2. Let's go position by position. We'll start at catcher. Cards. We are forced to play one of these on DraftKings. FanDuel, you're probably not going to play one unless it's a tournament, but there are some interesting ones over there today as well. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think you can play a catcher if you want on FanDuel today. Not that, it's necessary, but I think you got some. And a lot of times they are cheaper on FanDuel too, because you don't have to play one, like Sal Perez at 3,100, Melendez at 2,800 if you want some of those Royals guys. Contreras is back in the lineup for the Cardinals today, hitting 5th behind Goldie and Arenado. He's only 3,100. Stevenson's cheap. He's hitting cleanup. And Rutschman, has been on fire in the early going. So I think it's especially because these catchers tend to go under owned on FanDuel. I definitely think you play one in your stacks if you're rolling one of these teams out there. But Rutschman probably the top overall. Stevenson, at 3,900 on DraftKings is going to project as one of the better values there. You can always punt if you want, but Perez, Stevenson, Rutschman, probably my top three.
TJ, catcher position, what's standing out to you?
Rutschman stands out as number one by a fairly large margin. And then my kind of tournament favorites are probably going to be Travis d'Arnaud, maybe even Sean Murphy at the bottom of that lineup. Sal Perez, I'm fine with as well. If you want to go with like one of the Toronto guys, like a Danny Jansen or an Alejandro Kirk, I think they both have upside against the lefty. Jan Gomes at 2,800 on DraftKings, going up against Lauer. I believe he's starting at DH today, actually. That's someone that I like getting to quite a bit. And then Ryan Jeffers at 2,200 is like my favorite bottom of the barrel punt.
All right. First base to me cards is pretty simple. There's two guys. You play the Wind in Wrigley with Rowdy Tellez, or it's Pete Alonso for me going up against Rogers, who really struggles against righties. I do have a Pete Alonso. I don't know if this is a Spidey bomb, but I did write him up to hit a home run. Plus 500 for Pete Alonso to hit a home run. I couldn't believe that when I saw that this morning. So that's up on Scores and Odds. That's a home run bet I have today. I'm sure you're on board with both of them.
Yeah, definitely no qualms about Alonso against the lefty at those kind of odds. Tellez, we've only got Tellez at 4% ownership on FanDuel in our RG projections. I think that's definitely low. So roll him if you want. Matt Olson has been locked in all spring. Obviously had a big game yesterday. Tends to be a little less owned in the lefty spots. Again, you're going to see ownership largely spread out, so play who you want. But Alonso, Tellez, and then going for some like guys, good hitters against decent pitchers, right? Nobody's playing Vlad today, and nobody's playing Goldschmidt. And I know they're facing good pitchers, but anytime you can get Goldschmidt or Guerrero at sub 5% ownership, certainly fine with them as one-off plays in tournaments today. In cash, I'm probably playing Tellez. Otherwise, Alonso is fine as well.
Mm-hmm. TJ, what are we looking at first base from a tournament perspective?
Yeah, Tellez is going to be my highest owned today. I like Matt Olson in a lefty-lefty matchup. Jose Abreu is somebody I'm getting a lot of today. Don't mind some of these cheap Tampa Bay guys like a Harold Ramirez, Yandy Diaz, Trey Mancini. I think is a very interesting play today as well. And Justin Turner is another guy I like.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board all of those. Second base cards, interesting position. A couple ways. You've got India at the high end. There's a couple other cheaper guys. You've got, at least on DraftKings, you've got Herner if you want to play the win game in Chicago. How are you handling it?
Yeah, India feels like the guy that's going to be the most popular today. I've got FanDuel up, so I'm kind of going off of our salaries and projections for the most part, with them being the sponsor. So we've got India at about 25% ownership on FanDuel because he's only 3,300, not through the roof in terms of price. There's just a little less gap in the hitter pricing on FanDuel, whereas 5K on DraftKings makes it a little bit more of a discussion. But India definitely on FanDuel. On DK might be inclined to go a little bit cheaper here. Nick Gordon, Horner, who you mentioned. I do think Nolan Gorman is interesting as well. Kind of a high-end prospect for the Cardinals that struggled at the end of last year. But he's looked pretty good so far in spring. And he's only 2,400 on FanDuel. Probably not playing him on DK, but fine with him as a tournament punt as well.
All right, let's go to the tournament takes for second base. What's going on there today, TJ?
Second baseman today is basically just whoever the heck is in my stack. This is kind of like one of the last places I'm filling out. I don't mind punting it, and I'm basically just filling it out throughout my stack. So Albies, I think, is probably my top guy on the board. I like India. I like Isaac Paredes a lot today. Nick Gordon is a guy that I'm getting to a little bit. Hensley for Houston. And like somebody like a Torres is fine too. But like this is basically just like the last place I'm filling out today and going with whoever is in my stack.
All right. We're going to try to speed this up so we can get some questions. If you guys want to put your questions into Discord, if you're a premium member, we'll get to those first in the MLB Crunch Time. Otherwise, I will go to YouTube in about 5 to 7 minutes. Cards, third base. It's looking good there today. You've got a couple different ways to go. You got Diaz on Fanduel's reasonably cheap. There are some cheap win game third baseman as well on DraftKings. How are you handling it?
Yeah, and if you're on FanDuel, Paredes, you get him at third at 2,400, so he's fine as a cheap guy. I think most people in cash will probably try to get up to Riley, who's fine as well, obviously, with his power upside against Gore. I think the cheap play that I like for tournaments today is Patrick Wisdom. If you do want to play the wind in Wrigley, he swings and misses a lot, and he's not particularly good, but when he gets a hold of one, it can go a long way. And he is facing a lefty today, and he is only 2,500 on FanDuel. So give me that low-end punt, and he's probably, I don't know what his home run odds are today, but Britt can find that for me. And 2,500 Patrick Wisdom would be my tournament punt here.
What do you think? What do you think his home run line should be today?
Let's put it at 800.
800, 480 is the best line you
man,
can get.
you got 480.
You're not gonna get 800 in a win game.
You just told me you got Pete Alonso at 500.
I did,
and Patrick Wisdom is 480.
That's why I got Pete Alonso.
Well, Patrick Wisdom is not more likely to hit a homer than Pete Alonso, even with the win. So okay, don't bet that at 480. That's ridiculous.
A couple likes away.
Me out.
5 likes for the second Spidey bomb. Get him, TJ Stingy. TJ third base. What are you looking at?
Don't mind me some Devers. Don't mind me some Yandy Diaz. But I think my favorite third baseman today is going to be Gunnar Henderson at 4,200 on DraftKings for Baltimore. I don't mind getting to Bregman. Obviously, Austin Riley is a fantastic play. You can play Paredes here as well. Jose Miranda is somebody that I don't mind getting to either of the Yankees third baseman. I'm fine with. But my favorite is definitely going to be like Gunnar Henderson, Yandy Diaz.
All right, shortstop cards. You got a couple win game shortstops, Adames and Bobby Witt Jr. You got a favorite between one of those, or are you looking at somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys are fine, and certainly in stacks, I think. But at least Adames is facing a guy that can keep the ball on the ground. Witt is pricey, and Joe Ryan is not a bad pitcher, so maybe Correa. Lindor, guys that are going to go a little bit under-owned today. I think this is maybe where you can differentiate your tournament options because your shortstop is fairly deep. I think in cash games, you maybe play one of those chalky guys or you punt with like a Nick Gordon on FanDuel, but tournaments, Correa, Lindor, maybe Wander Franco as well.
All right. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button on the share screen. So it's back up now if you want to throw it back up on the screen. Shortstop for you, TJ?
Yeah, I like those ones cards mentioned as well. A couple other guys I got in tournament. I like Adames. Dansby Swanson is somebody I like against Lauer quite a bit. Correa is probably going to be one of my main ones, but I do also like Jeremy Pena. Bo Bichette in tournaments, punting with a guy like Bryce Terang or Anthony Volpe, I think is fine as well.
All right, outfield, lots to play here. There's some expensive bats cards. There's some cheap bats. You can get a mix of them. What do you like? I think that, mixing and matching the cheap guys on sites are going to be playing different ones, in my opinion, today.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta spend up for one or two because you should have the salary to do it. There's plenty of value with the bats. There's plenty of value with the pitching, particularly if you're playing on DK. So I think you got to spend up for one, maybe two. In terms of my pecking order, I'd probably put Buxton, Mullins, and Tucker as my top 3. No particular order, but I mean, I think you play maybe a couple of those guys. And then, you look to go cheap from there. Kepler's 2,500 on FanDuel leading off. He's fine. Austin Meadows is hitting cleanup, even lefty. Adam Duvall hit the walk-off homer yesterday because McKenna dropped the routine fly ball that would have ended the game. And Duvall had like a triple, a double, a couple homers. He's still 2,700 on FanDuel. Oh, and he's facing a weak lefty in Irvin today. Ref Snyder's leading off. He's 2,100. Winker's really cheap. So Again, that's kind of more FanDuel based. We can let TJ touch on if there's any DK guys as well. But yeah, plenty of cheap guys, and I think you got to get at least one of those high end guys also.
Yeah, you got Judge in there. Chisholm, the bat really likes Chisholm. If you're on board with the bat, I wanted to point that out to people. Good news, TJ. We've hit 101 likes, so we're going to get Spidey Bomb 2. I've got scores and odds pull up. What game am I going to, and who's the guy?
You're going to the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox. Back to the catcher position. It's Adley Rutschman, my highest owned batter on today's slate. Spidey Bomb number 2 to go along with Kyle Tucker. Absolutely love both of these guys in stacks or as one-offs today.
He's not even going to put the mask on this time.
No, there's not enough time for the mask.
It hurt too bad, and there's not enough time for the mask. And it's the thing with Rutschman is like you can get quite different in your lineups today on DraftKings if you just play him as a one-off instead of in a Baltimore stack. Maybe a little mini stack with him and Mullins, and so I like that play quite a bit today.
Rutschman plus 580 on FanDuel. There is an 800 line floating.
You're telling me that he can get 800 and I can still only get 480 for Patrick Wisdom?
800 on Adley Rutschman? Let's run that up today. I love that.
Yep, I'm on that. So shop around, go to scores and odds if you're looking for the best one on that one. All right. Outfielder tournaments real quick, TJ, then we'll take some questions from the Discord and then get to YouTube.
Yeah, so outfield today, obviously my favorite is going to be Kyle Tucker, who I mentioned earlier as a Spidey Bomb. I really like Cedric Mullins, Buxton, and if I'm choosing between Buxton, Acuna, and Judge, I think I'd probably rank them Judge 1, Buxton 2, Acuna 3, but all three of them are strong plays. Christian Yelich at $4,500 on DraftKings is a probable cash game play for me. Adam Duvall, same thing, $3,500. Duvall, Yelich and either Tucker or Mullins is probably the way I'd be going in a cash situation on DraftKings. But if you need to go cheap, guys like TJ Friedel, Jesse Winker, both of them totally fine options as well. And then, of course, you can just play anybody in your stack. If you need to go all the way down to Garrett Mitchell at $2,200, that's totally fine too.
All right, questions. We're going to get right to those. We'll probably stick around a couple minutes after Lock 2. That's only the Detroit-Tampa Bay game. We're all holding hands playing Springs and maybe a couple raise bets in that, but we'll have time to mess with a couple of other questions afterwards. So let's go to Discord. Carolina guy, FanDuel and DraftKings, your favorite single entry pitchers today, TJ?
Favorite single entry pitchers, FanDuel and DraftKings. On DraftKings, it's probably Springs and and I'm forgetting the guy's name. Schuster. Springs and Schuster are probably the first two that I'm going to, even in a single entry lineup, and I'm just going to differentiate with my bats instead.
All right, let's see. Favorite stack on FanDuel for single entry. You got one entry. You're putting it all on the line, TJ. Sometimes you do that. What are we playing today?
I think I would probably roll with Houston as well as probably Milwaukee or Tampa Bay.
All right. Smitty Josh wants to know Kepler or Duvall in cash. Oh, actually, no, he just changed it on the fly. So he has reassessed his entire lineup. So this is now Stevenson and Cruz or Gunnar and Rutschman. I think I'm on that second one there.
I am as well.
TJ, I know you're probably on that. You like Rutschman, Gunnar as well. We're up 3 for 3 on that one. NBA DFS wants to know Fam 2,300 on FanDuel. So I was looking, Fam's in my cash game lineup on FanDuel cards. He's one of those cheap plays out there. Probably one of the cheapest you can actually get on FanDuel up near the top of the order today.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many of them that you can let your personal preference come into play. I mean, I think if you've got the money to get up to Duvall, I like him a little bit better. It's only a few $100s. But, yeah, if you need to go bottom of the barrel, you're in that 2,300, 2,400, 2,500 range, Fam is certainly fine.
Fam or Reif Snyder for 200 less on FanDuel?
I would take Fam there just because Ref Snyder, I think there is some significant pinch hit risk there later in the game.
All right. Achilles wants to know Duvall and Franco or Winker and Lindor. So this is a DraftKings cash question cards.
Yeah, that's the first one by a fairly significant margin for me.
I'd probably take the first one as well. I like that one pretty well. Let's go to the YouTubes. Oh, let's see what we got here. I see TJ's in there. TJ, you find any good questions on YouTube you haven't answered yet?
No, I switched back to lineups. I just saw a couple where looked fairly important for a main part of their lineup, so I wanted to make sure they had time to get it in.
All right, I'll see. I'm just checking to make sure real quick. Blue Jays. Yes, you mentioned the Blue Jays. What about the Blue Jays today? Cards, you're the Cardinals homer. Do you think are they going to get no hit with 7 walks?
No, they're not going to get no hit with 7 walks. I'm surprised the Cardinals are throwing Montgomery today, honestly. I figured they'd save Montgomery for the next series because Toronto's lineup is so righty heavy. I was kind of surprised to see him out there today, but I don't make those calls. So, I think Toronto is sneaky. Obviously, I hope they don't do well because I'm rooting against them. But that offense, nobody's playing the Cardinals, nobody's playing the Blue Jays, and they played a 10-9 game on opening day with Michaelis and Manoah pitching. So these offenses can go off at any time. I don't mind either team today.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point you make from a large field tournament perspective.
Yeah.
Judge or Tucker? TJ's on Judge. I see him in chat there. I'm probably on Judge as well. Cards.
He's throwing me off with this because Tucker was the first Spidey bomb, so I thought
Tucker's a Spidey bomb. But if you have the opportunity to get Judge versus anybody, you play Judge.
Yeah, I
Fair
think
response.
I'm on that too. I took him. There was a nice boost on one of the sites to lead the league in home runs.
Unless he's 2% owned, Judge is basically permanently exempt from Spidey bombs. He's not allowed to be chosen. And so that's why.
He's probably plus 250 max every day to hit a home run. And you can get plus 800 on Rutschman, but Patrick Wisdom's plus 480.
Yeah, I was going to say, Judge probably has higher odds than Patrick Wisdom too.
I don't really see too many more questions in YouTube. I'm going to circle back to Discord. Why did Tampa get delayed? Did anyone see that? Is there a delay in that? Someone says, why delay Tampa?
I mean, most of the time at this point of the year, it's due to some ceremony or some goofy thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
The game is indoors. I can't imagine.
I mean, strange things happen in baseball.
Yes, I'm aware.
In all sports that are indoor arenas,
there's a roof leak.
No reports of a roof leak that I can see. I'm not concerned about it unless we see some other reports.
All right.
Do you have another Spidey bomb, TJ?
I'll give you one. Larnack was plus 1,000.
No, this is very important. This is very important. Do you have one more, TJ? Tell me, because I have something queued up. Can you do one in 7 seconds?
Can I do one in 7 seconds? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Who do we
All right, I'm going to queue you up, and in 7 seconds, you better have one. You ready?
Okay.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thief.
We've now been sued.
Pete Alonso, Spider Bomb. No, it's not. I can't do it. I can't force it. Spidey didn't tell me. Pete Alonso's got great betting odds, and I think there's a good chance he hits a home run today. But it didn't come from him. It was just coming from me looking at odds. If I'm being honest with you.
Way to ruin the bit.
All right, I'll throw
totally botched it up.
Larnack for Minnesota, I got plus 1,000 on in the win game, and he's had a pretty hot spring and a good start to the year as well. So we'll have to see if that follows through. I'm all in on that win game. Definitely going to be a 1-0 game in Kansas City today. Hope maybe Kansas City will get that run. I saw a couple other questions came through. Pham or Paredes, if you have to pick one. We got about 5 seconds to get that one in, Cards.
Yeah, I think I'd take Paredes.
I think I would do that as well. Going back to Discord, if you guys have any, a ceremony on field. Cards correct.
Nailed it.
Plus 300 ceremony has won the delay in Tampa Bay. No questions in Discord. If you have any, get them in. Circling back to YouTube. Don Zimmer in the Hall of Fame. All right, I can get behind that. Don't really see. All right, let's talk a couple sports bets. Cards, you have access to all of them. Did you, like me, so I have a 10.5-month-old. I was up at 5:30 this morning. Didn't have anything better to do than browse the bat, browse some odds, get a bunch of bets in today. Did you have anything like that happen to you today, or did you happen to find anything else in a sports book you were looking at?
Yeah, no. Now that my youngest is 9, I thankfully don't have to wake up that hour most of the time. It's very handy when they're somewhat independent that you don't get when you don't get woken up in the middle of the night. It's a good feeling.
You get the good baseball lines when you're up that early.
This is true, so it is a trade off, but I'll take this. I'll take the Z's.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I did bet the over in that Kansas City game as well, which was easier than stacking it for DFS because that always seems to go wrong when you stack the Royals. So yeah, I like the over in that game as well. And I also bet the Mets run line today. So Mets -1.5 and the over in the Royals game.
I was looking at the stolen base props for later today. Syndergaard's pitching, and the lines came out, and within I didn't catch it in time. Within about 5 minutes, every single one of them dropped by about half of what it originally opened at. So someone was on an automatic feed to smash those. I think a couple of those. I was looking at the bat and stolen bases. Keep an eye on that. I think some of them are still bettable, but always good. With these big bases, I mean, what over under, it's probably like 2.5 is probably a bad line, but it seems like you're probably going to be able to steal against Syndergaard even easier than you were before. So that's something that.
And it was pretty easy before.
Yeah. TJ, you got any bets, any last minute advice for people? We're just basically missing this Detroit Tampa Bay game right now.
I think that the Blue Jays over the Cardinals is a great bet since this is a basically pick'em game. It's in St. Louis, but
yeah, that's bait.
Bassett's a better pitcher than Jordan Montgomery is, as well as
this is all bait.
The Blue Jays having a very right-handed heavy lineup. And did I say anything that wasn't factual?
No, I said I like the Blue Jays with their right-handed lineup too, so I agree. I'm not touching the game. But I do agree with the analysis. Hope you're wrong.
Let's see here. Tucker, there's a question from Discord. Can you play Tucker and Judge together in a FanDuel tournament? That sounds like a lot of fantasy points today.
Love it.
Yeah, A-OK. Grinder wants to know how many people subscribe to the bat. You would have to ask Mr. Derek Carney. That is top secret information. I doubt
proprietary info there.
You're not going to get any sort of black box numbers from RotoGrinders or Mr. Derek Carney on that one, I would assume. But my advice would be lots of people subscribe to the bat and use it. It's very evident when you play the 50-50s on DraftKings and FanDuel, whatever that lineup is at a minute before lock. It's probably like 15 to 20% of the field on a general day is probably very close to, if not that particular lineup. So it is a reasonable amount. I know the GPP, like yesterday, the bat was all over Mountcastle, just like TJ was. It was all over Duvall. It was all over Acuna and Olsen. All these guys, that you won. And if you played all of them in a GPP, you won. You bet home run odds. You hit a home run, on everything on that. So the bat's been off to a hot start. People have been shipping things left and right, but there are quite a few people on that. Steve-O, SP2, Senga or Ryan? I do like Joe Ryan today with his, new pitch mix. Senga a little bit hard to decipher. I know the bat's really low on him, but there's reasons why you can be high on him. Does anyone have a particular take on that one?
I got about 15% of both.
So I think in a vacuum, Ryan is probably better, but Senga, I think in tournaments would be my choice because I think you're going to get a lot lower ownership there. But yeah, it's not this hot or strong, you got to have it type of take. Just my opinion on that.
Wants to know, is there a basketball show tonight? I am running double duty today. Cards, are you on the basketball show with me?
Are we all rolling double duty?
Oh, yeah. Boom! Let's just roll this till 6 o'clock, and we'll just come.
No, I gotta do the article yet. I need time.
I need to read it, Cards.
Look, I got the expert survey up so that I'm right here beside us right now. Cards, I'm ready to roll. Let's just.
I did that. I got that part taken care of, but I gotta do the article yet, which means I need to get off of here.
The Raptors game is on right now. We got the baseball game starting. Let's just get some streams up and keep it going all day.
All right. Good luck, everyone out there. We'll see the threesome back for basketball at 5. It's a 6 o'clock slate, so that's 5:20 for us. Am I correct?
Yeah.
All right. So
Correct.
We'll be back here in just a little bit. Good luck in all your games. For TJ, for Cards, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we out ya.